Okay, let's unpack this. For decades, it feels like the default setting, you know, when dealing with stress or anxiety or any kind of emotional pain, really, has been to try and solve it completely from the neck up.
Right, the purely cognitive approach.
Exactly. We're always coached to overthink it, analyze the story, the narrative of what happened over and over, trying to logic our way out of these really deep, sometimes painful emotional states, just using our minds.
That's definitely been the trap, hasn't it, for maybe the last century or so. We kind of operate under this assumption that if we just dissect the problem enough times...
Yeah, talk it through one more time.
Talk about the narrative again. Somehow our bodies will just magically fall in line. But we end up living in this constant state of mental churn.
Right.
And if you look at the sheer amount of self-help focused on cognitive reframing, it really shows a society trying to power through these fundamental physical challenges using only that executive function part of the brain.
And what's the result? Usually just feeling mentally drained.
You're right. Totally exhausted. And the root, the physiological patterns, they often remain completely untouched.
Which is exactly why we're diving into this stack of sources today. We're looking at a really fascinating, profound shift in wellness. It feels both ancient and newly embraced somehow.
Somatic healing.
Somatic healing, yeah. We're going to really dissect the specific neurological science, like the hard proof of what actually happens in your brain when you commit to doing this kind of body-centered practice.
It's 10 or 15 minutes.
Just 10 to 15 minutes, but every single morning. That consistency seems key.
And what's immediately compelling here, what gives this whole topic its weight, I think, is the bigger picture. This isn't just being framed as another little lifestyle hack, you know?
No, it feels more fundamental.
Exactly. The sources we looked at, they're calling this movement a fundamental reconnection with the wisdom that has always lived within us. That phrasing really stuck out.
Wisdom that has always lived within us, yeah.
It suggests we're collectively remembering something really essential about our own biology. It's something we maybe forgot.
I love that phrase, the wisdom of the body. It sounds a bit, I don't know, esoteric maybe?
A little bit, yeah.
But we're going to show you exactly how it translates into, well, measurable brain health, real changes.
Precisely. And actually, one of the big wellness forecasts we saw noted that the major shift expected by, I think it was 2026, isn't some new diet fad or a miracle supplement. It's this foundational move where people are intentionally, consciously reconnecting with the wisdom of the body.
So it's moving out of just like the therapist's office
and into a daily personal practice, something you do for yourself.
Okay, so our mission today is pretty clear then. We need to explain the neurobiology, the how this simple daily ritual can actually fundamentally rewire your chronic stress response.
And genuinely help heal old emotional wounds.
Right, and unlock a kind of mental clarity that, frankly, just thinking harder or analyzing more probably can't touch.
Yeah, getting beyond the limits of logic.
We want to show you how to stop just thinking your way through stress and maybe finally start feeling your way back to a more regulated, calm state.
Okay, so before we put on our neurological safety goggles, metaphorically speaking, and dive into the brain structures, we need to make sure we're all on the same page with this term, somatic. It can sound a bit clinical, maybe intimidating.
It can, but it's rooted in something incredibly simple, really accessible.
Okay.
The word somatic itself just comes from the Greek word soma, which literally means of the body.
Simple enough.
Yeah. So somatic healing, just by definition, is any approach that centers the body. It acknowledges and works directly with our physical experience, our sensations.
So it's tapping into this kind of intelligence we often ignore, especially now with screens and everything.
An ancient intelligence, absolutely. One we've largely tuned out in modern life. And this brings us right back to that core tension you mentioned earlier, the difference between the story, the narrative, and the actual physical experience. What's that fundamental truth about how we hold on to stress that we often miss?
Okay, so the core truth, the one that traditional cognitive-focused approaches often skim over, is that stress, trauma, even just persistent emotional difficulty, it's not just stored as a story.
Not just a memory in your head.
Right, not just a sequence in the hippocampus. That's the narrative we tell ourselves about what happened, but the deeper impact, it's physiological. These experiences get physically stored, embodied. in our actual tissues, like chronic muscle tension, the way we hold our posture.
The jaw clenching.
Exactly, jaw tension's a huge one. And maybe most importantly, it gets stored in the entrenched response patterns of our autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
The body remembers danger signals.
Ah, okay. That explains why, you can logically understand why you shouldn't be anxious about something.
It's irrational.
It's irrational, but your body still reacts like it's life or death. Pounding heart, sweaty palms, the works.
Exactly. The body is still running the old program. It remembers the danger signal, even if the conscious mind tries to rationalize it away or even forget the original event happened.
So this physical storage,
Yeah.
it creates these loops.
That's what practitioners often call survival loops. It's like an instruction the nervous system received maybe a long time ago, maybe yesterday, that it was never told to switch off. The all-clear signal never came.
Wow. Okay. So if traditional talk therapy, which has been the gold standard for ages, focuses mostly on the narrative.
The story, the analysis, the why.
Right, the why. Then where does somatic healing put its focus?
It completely shifts the orientation from the past to the present moment, and critically, from the thought to the sensation.
Sensation, okay.
Somatic healing focuses laser-like on the physical feeling of what's happening right now. So instead of asking, why do I feel so anxious? It asks,
where's that anxiety in my body?
Precisely. Where do I feel it? What does it feel like? Is it a tightness, a pressure, a coldness, a buzzing? It treats the body not just as this, passive thing dragged around by the mind's troubles,
Right.
but as the primary source of really actionable information. The body knows.
That's a huge difference in approach. Let's make it super relatable. I think everyone listening has felt these physical things.
Oh, absolutely. Think about that sudden, vice grip around your chest when anxiety hits.
Yeah. Or the butterflies.
Yes.
Or maybe feels more like bats sometimes in your stomach before a stressful meeting.
Bats, yeah. Or that heavy, almost literal weight you feel pushing down on your shoulders when you're just completely overwhelmed.
Those are somatic signals.
Exactly. They are the body trying to communicate, hey, system overload here, pay attention.
And traditional methods might say, okay, change the thought that caused the pressure.
Yeah.
Challenge the thinking.
Which can be helpful sometimes. But somatic work takes a different route. It uses these gentle, mindful techniques to kind of bypass the overthinking brain
Direct.
and directly address the stored physical tension linked to that signal. You're not ignoring the thought necessarily, but you're prioritizing releasing the physical charge first.
Okay.
And this is why the sources we reviewed are really positioning somatic healing things like focused breath work, specific trauma release movements as a, quote, core component of mental and emotional well-being.
Not just an add-on.
Not an add-on. It signals a foundational shift away from just quick fixes or symptom management towards deep physiological self-regulation. It's like we're finally realizing we need to address the body's hardware, not just keep trying to tweak the mind's software.
Okay, this is the section I was really excited about because it's where the woo meets the woe. It validates the practice with actual hard science. When we talk about rewiring the brain,
We mean it literally.
we're not just using a cool metaphor. We're talking about tangible changes in brain structure and function, all powered by these short daily somatic practices. So where do you start? We have to start with the brain's chief security officer, right? Who could be a little dramatic.
And definitely a bit of a drama queen sometimes. That's the amygdala. Yeah, our little almond-shaped, hyper-vigilant alarm system, its original job evolutionarily was absolutely critical.
Life-saving.
Totally. Detecting that saber-toothed tiger, the real threat, and instantly triggering that life-saving fight, flight, or freeze response, it's the core of our survival kit.
But the issue is, in our modern world, where saber-toothed tigers are generally not lurking around the corner.
Hopefully never.
That system gets its wires crossed, it becomes way too sensitive.
Exactly. It often gets stuck in overdrive. Hypervigilance becomes the default. It starts getting triggered by things that are not actual threats to survival.
Like what, an overflowing inbox?
Overflowing inbox, yeah. A sudden phone notification, getting stuck in traffic, maybe a critical comment from your boss.
Okay.
All these things can register neurologically as perceived threats, which leads to that chronic hypervigilance, that generalized anxiety, that feeling like you're always bracing for the next bad thing.
So, if the amygdala tends to ignore the rational arguments coming from the thinking part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, it often does. I know this isn't really a threat. Thought doesn't always land.
So how does a 10-minute session of mindful breathing and gentle movement actually talk this ancient, sometimes irrational alarm system down?
Okay, this is where we bring in the crucial player. The vagus nerve.
Yeah, the vagus nerve.
Heard a lot about this.
It's huge. Think of it as this massive two-way information superhighway. It runs all the way from your brainstem down to connect with nearly all your major organs, your heart, your lungs, your gut.
Wow.
It's the direct physical link, the communication channel between what's happening in your body and your brain's emotional centers, including the amygdala.
So when we do these somatic practices, we're essentially sending messages directly up that highway, bypassing the logical thinking mind. Precisely. That slow, mindful movement we'll talk about, the rhythmic breathing, focusing on the feeling of physical safety in this moment. These techniques send a direct, high-priority, very powerful signal up the vagus nerve.
A physical signal.
A physical signal to the brainstem and the amygdala, and the message is clear, it's non-negotiable, it's physical. You are safe right now. It's what we call bottom-up regulation.
Using the body to calm the brain, not the other way around.
Exactly. You often can't think your way out of a physiological panic state, but you can often breathe or move your way out of it.
And the result? If you send that you are safe, signal consistently every morning.
Over time, that daily practice literally reduces the amygdala's baseline reactivity. You're introducing positive, repetitive input, and that's the absolute key to neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to change itself.
Right. The brain physically reorganizes, forms new neural connections based on repeated experience. So the fear center actually physically learns, that the present moment, your physical reality right now, is generally stable and safe.
Which means
less chronic anxiety day to day. Fewer sudden panic responses popping up out of nowhere, a lower level of that constant exhausting vigilance. You're physically retraining your alarm system to have a lower, calmer default setting.
Okay, so if the amygdala is the jumpy security guard, then the prefrontal cortex, the PFC, is like the brain's CEO. Right?
That's a great analogy, the executive control center.
And the sources were really clear on this. Chronic stress just batters the PFC. It degrades its ability to function properly.
It really does.
Which explains why, when we're stressed, we feel so scattered, unable to think clearly or make good decisions.
That's the classic stress response cycle. When the amygdala starts screaming threat, it essentially hijacks resources and partially shuts down the PFC.
So the CEO gets sidelined.
Exactly. The part responsible for rational thought, impulse control, long-term planning, emotional regulation, it goes offline to a degree. The more primitive emotional brain takes the wheel, leading to impulsivity, poor focus, maybe saying things you regret.
Okay, so how does focusing on, say, the feeling of pressure in your heel during a body scan actually strengthen your ability to make better decisions later in the day? It seems like a leap.
It does seem counterintuitive, but here's the link. Somatic healing is a practice of sustained, focused attention. And attention is like the fuel, the workout for the PFC.
Ah, okay.
The simple act of just observing a sensation non-judgmentally, really feeling the pressure of your thigh on the chair, or the weight of your arm resting, or the coolness of the air on your skin, that's a focused mental task. It demands that the PFC stay actively engaged with the present moment, with internal experience.
So it's basically weightlifting for your focus muscle.
Exactly. It's an exercise in sustained internal focus, which is a core function of that executive control network.
And what about when your mind wanders? Because it definitely will.
Oh, it absolutely will. That's normal. But the process of noticing it has wandered, and then gently, kindly, without self-criticism, bringing your attention back to the sensation.
That's the rep.
That's the rep. That's the key repetition in the PFC gym. This repeated returning of focus to internal sensation, rather than getting swept away by thoughts or external distractions, actively promotes neuroplasticity, specifically in the PFC region.
So you're literally building thicker connections.
Yeah.
Denser pathways.
You're building denser, more efficient neural pathways in the exact part of the brain responsible for things like impulse control, emotional regulation, and clear thinking.
So the payoff isn't just feeling relaxed during the 10 minutes.
No, the benefits ripple out. It leads to improved focus throughout the day, better decision-making, especially under pressure, and that crucial ability to create a little space, a pause between a stimulus and your response.
You go from being purely reactive
to living more intentionally, more responsively, because your internal CEO is back online, regulated, and strengthened.
All right, let's talk about the autonomic nervous system, the ANS. It's such a cool system because it's mostly automatic, right? Handles breathing, heart rate, digestion, all that stuff without us thinking about it.
It runs in the background.
Yet we can consciously influence it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Let's quickly remind listeners of its two main branches.
Yeah, the ANS is basically the body's master control panel for readiness and recovery. We've got two key branches, working like a gas pedal and a brake.
Okay.
First, the sympathetic nervous system, SNS, that's the gas pedal. It triggers the fight or flight response, spikes cortisol, jacks up your heart rate, gets you ready to run or fight, mobilizes energy.
The stress response system.
Exactly. Then you have the parasympathetic nervous system, PNS, that's the brake. This is your rest and digest mode. It's responsible for calming the system down, promoting healing, social connection, and conserving energy.
And the problem, as we've kind of established, is that modern life often feels like it keeps our foot glued to the gas pedal. We're stuck in sympathetic overdrive.
It's the chronic stress trap. We're constantly prepared for a crisis that maybe never fully materializes, or it's just a series of small crises all day long.
Emails, notifications, deadlines.
Right. So our bodies are just pumping out stress hormones like cortisol almost constantly. And that leads downstream to things like chronic inflammation, poor sleep, digestive issues, weakened immunity. The list goes on.
So somatic healing acts like a way to manually press the brake.
It's one of the most direct, non-drug ways we have to consciously, deliberately engage that PNS brake, to intentionally shift the balance. We move from a state of just surviving, constantly immobilized by the SNS,
to a state of actual thriving, where healing and connection are possible, powered by the PNS. How exactly does this 10-minute session physically hit that brake? Is it mainly the breathing techniques?
The breathing is absolutely central, yeah. Specifically, the emphasis on the exhale.
The exhale.
A slow, extended exhale is probably the most direct physical command you can give to your vagus nerve to activate the parasympathetic response. When your breath slows down, especially the out-breath.
Your heart rate slows.
Your heart rate slows, and importantly, your heart rate variability, or HRV, improves. Higher HRV is a key marker of a healthy, resilient, adaptable nervous system. So that slow, deep breath, where the exhale is noticeably longer than the inhale. It directly tells the heart, and therefore the brain, via the vagus nerve, okay, threat has passed, calm down.
The sources also mention gentle movements like wave breathing or swaying as being direct activators too. What's the mechanism there?
Those kinds of rhythmic, gentle, self-initiated movements, like the swaying we'll describe later, they create a felt sense in the body of stability, rhythm, and flow, which is fundamentally incompatible with that rigid, braced, high alert state of the sympathetic system.
Movement signals safety.
Movement signals safety and agency. Furthermore, if we bring in polyvagal theory, which is becoming increasingly important in understanding this.
Yeah, Dr. Porges' work.
Right. Polyvagal theory suggests the ANS has sub-branches within the parasympathetic system. There's the freeze state, but there's also a state of calm, safety, and social connection, the ventral vagal state. Gentle somatic movement, that feeling of safe, rhythmic motion, seems to directly shift us into that ventral vagal state.
Out of fight, flight, or freeze.
And into the state where we feel safe, connected, and open, the state needed for healing and thriving.
We've touched on this really profound idea that stress and trauma don't just live in our heads, they get physically stuck in the body. This concept of releasing trapped energy seems central to somatic work. How does this daily practice help facilitate the release of these deeper, often chronic, holding patterns?
Yeah, we need to unpack what stuck really means physiologically. When a traumatic event, or even just a highly frightening or overwhelming event occurs, the body naturally initiates this massive surge of defensive energy.
Adrenaline, cortisol.
Exactly. You need that energy to run, to fight, to protect yourself, maybe to hide or freeze. Now, if that defensive action is somehow thwarted, maybe you're physically restrained, or perhaps social conditioning demanded you just keep it together and not show fear.
Don't cry, don't tremble.
Right. If that massive energy surge has nowhere to go, no physical release, it doesn't just evaporate. It gets locked, effectively trapped in the physical tissues, in the nervous system. It creates these loops of chronic tension, hypervigilance, or sometimes hypoarousal, like numbness.
Like a pressure cooker left on the stove.
That's a good analogy. It's constantly generating internal distress signals, even years later.
So the somatic practice isn't necessarily about dredging up the memory consciously.
Not primarily, no. It's more about creating a safe container, a safe space in the present for the body to finally complete the physical, defensive actions it couldn't complete back then.
Wow. Completing the action.
Completing the thwarted survival response. And the sources we looked at confirm this. They state that somatic therapy is, quote, instrumental in altering the way the brain stores and recalls traumatic events, offering relief and healing.
So the memory itself doesn't vanish.
No, the narrative memory usually remains, but its emotional charge, its visceral grip on your present-day physiology, that gets neutralized or significantly reduced.
How does that completion actually happen then? What might someone look out for if they're doing this practice?
The integration process is often quite gentle, sometimes subtle, sometimes surprising. The body has its own wisdom here. It naturally finds ways to complete these thwarted responses through involuntary physical movements or releases.
Like what?
It can manifest as things like an intense but somehow relieving spontaneous full-body tremor, or maybe waves of trembling, particularly in the legs or arm.
Okay.
Sometimes it's involuntary yawning or sudden tears that don't feel connected to sadness, or just a massive, deep, satisfying sigh that seems to come from your toes.
Like shaking it off.
Exactly. Think of animals in the wild. You see a gazelle escape a lion chase. Minutes later, it will often stand there and shake violently. It's discharging that enormous amount of survival energy. Humans have the same mechanism, but we're often conditioned to suppress it.
Yeah, we suppress it because we think it looks weird or feels out of control or inappropriate.
Totally. We judge it. But by offering those 10-15 minutes of safe, non-judgmental presence each morning, we essentially give the nervous system permission. Permission to finally discharge that old, pent-up energy.
And once that physical energy is released,
Metabolize. Once the defensive cycle is physically complete, the brain seems to be able to reprocess and integrate the associated memory. It shifts category. It moves from being experienced as an ongoing, immediate threat happening now in the body
to being recognized as an event that happened in the past and is over.
Exactly. It's safely filed away. And this frees the individual from the physical and emotional loop that the trauma or overwhelming stress had created. It's a profound reclaiming of personal liberty, really. Freedom in your own skin.
Okay, the neurological case is just, wow, it's overwhelming. This really feels like a foundational practice, and it's backed by serious science. So now, for the learner and all of us, we need the how-to.
The practical steps.
Exactly. And the brilliant part, really, is that this deep rewiring work doesn't require fancy equipment or special training. Just, what, 10 to 15 minutes of quiet, uninterrupted time? Preferably at home.
That consistency is the absolute key for neuroplastic change. We're aiming for high-quality, targeted nervous system regulation, repeated daily. And this blueprint we're outlining is really designed to be done first thing, ideally, before the day's demands rush in.
Before you even check your phone.
Ideally, yes. Before you flood your system with external stressors and information, start the day grounded in yourself.
Okay, let's break down the 4 simple, really actionable steps, starting with the foundation. Step 1 is grounding and the body scan.
Right. This initial phase really sets the tone and should take about, say, 3 to 4 minutes. You start simply by finding a comfortable position. Sitting is great, lying down is also fine. Whatever feels safe and supported for you.
Just get comfortable.
Get comfortable and immediately take 3 purposeful, slow, deep breaths, like really intentional. This acts as an immediate signal to your brain, like pressing the pause button. Okay, we're shifting gears now.
And then we move into the scan itself, that intentional focus shifting through the body.
Exactly. Start by bringing your full attention way down to your feet. Where are they making contact with the ground or floor? Just notice any physical sensations there.
Like what kind of sensations?
Anything, really. Warmth, coolness, pressure, tingling, maybe numbness, the texture of your socks. Just notice. Then, very slowly, methodically, guide your awareness upwards. Through the lower legs, the calves, the knees, the large muscles of your thighs, your glutes, your hips.
Slowly moving up.
Slowly up through the torso, belly, chest, back down the arms to the fingertips, up through the neck and shoulders, face, scalp, covering the whole body.
And what's the golden rule here? Because just focusing on the body could make someone more anxious if they do it wrong.
That is the crucial distinction. The absolute golden rule, which makes this therapeutic rather than anxiety-provoking, is observation without judgment.
Okay, explain that.
If you find a spot of tension, let's say your jaw feels really tight, your job is not to fix it, not to try and relax it, not to analyze why it's tight, not to judge yourself for being tense.
Just notice it.
Just notice it. Observe it with a gentle, open curiosity, like a scientist observing something interesting under a microscope. Tightness here. That's it. This non-judgmental awareness is the direct training for the prefrontal cortex we talked about earlier. It strengthens that observer capacity.
Got it. Okay, let's move to step 2, conscious breathing. Another 3 to 4 minutes, really focusing on using the breath to engage that vagus nerve.
Exactly. This is where we deliberately, consciously hit the parasympathetic brake pedal. And to help focus, it's useful to place one hand gently on your chest and the other hand on your lower belly.
Why the hands?
It gives you tactile feedback. You want to feel the breath moving the lower hand more than the upper hand. Encourages diaphragmatic breathing. So you inhale slowly, deeply through your nose, feeling the belly rise like you're inflating a balloon down there.
And the power, as you said, is really in the exhale.
Absolutely critical. You want to exhale even more slowly than you inhaled, maybe through slightly pursed lips, like you're gently blowing out a candle or through a straw.
Longer exhale.
Longer exhale is key. If you inhale for a count of, say, 4, try exhaling for a count of 6 or even 7. This long, slow, controlled exhale is the direct physical command to downregulate the autonomic nervous system.
What do you focus on?
Anchor your mindfulness entirely on the physical feeling of the breath. The air coming in, the belly rising, the air going out, the belly falling. If, or rather, when your mind wanders off to your to-do list or worries,
Which you will.
which it inevitably will, just gently notice that. Maybe offer a kind hello to the thought, and then gently guide your focus right back to the sensation of your belly moving under your hand. No harshness, just return.
Okay, now we introduce the more active body-led part. Step 3, gentle somatic movement. This is about 4 to 5 minutes of intentional, maybe even freeing movement. Let's start with the one you lie down for, the arch and flatten.
Yes, this one is fantastic for releasing that deep tension often held in the lower back, pelvis, and core areas that really brace during stress. You lie on your back, knees bent, feet flat on the floor, maybe hip width apart.
Okay.
The movement itself is very small, very subtle, almost imperceptible to someone watching, but you'll feel it internally. As you inhale slowly, you gently arch your lower back away from the floor, tipping your pelvis slightly forward so your tailbone presses down a bit.
Just a small arch.
Tiny arch. Then, as you exhale slowly, you do the opposite. You gently press your lower back flat into the floor, tilting your pelvis slightly backward, engaging the lower abdominal slightly.
Why is such a tiny movement so effective?
Because it directly addresses those core muscles, the psoas, the pelvic floor, the deep abdominals, which often get locked in a state of chronic defense, chronic bracing. This gentle rocking reminds them, on a nervous system level, that they are safe to move, safe to soften, safe to release that holding pattern. It breaks the tension cycle.
And you repeat that slowly.
Extremely slowly, yeah. Really connecting the breath to the movement. Inhale, arch, exhale, flatten, maybe just for 1 to 2 minutes. Focus on the sensation.
Okay. And then the other movement was somatic swaying. This one sounds really nice, kind of therapeutic, and it connects back to that idea of discharging energy.
It is deeply regulating, yes. For this one, you stand up. Feet about hip width apart, make sure your knees are soft, not locked. Let your arms hang completely loose and heavy by your sides.
Like spaghetti arms.
Exactly, totally relaxed.
Yeah.
Then you initiate a very gentle, fluid sway of your entire body. Start it softly from your core, from your center, not by forcing it from your neck or shoulders.
How should it feel?
Imagine you're like a piece of soft, heavy seaweed anchored to the ocean floor, just gently moving with the current. Or maybe a tall, flexible tree swaying gently in the breeze. The movement should feel non-strenuous, yielding, soft, and continuous. Let it happen for about 2 to 3 minutes.
And this helps discharge stress.
Yes. This rhythmic swaying encourages the body to let go of residual stress, particularly that freeze energy we talked about. Being frozen is a high-energy state of immobility. Swaying is the exact opposite. It's gentle, fluid movement.
So it's like a primal physical signal saying, I'm not frozen, I'm safe, I can move.
Precisely. It signals directly to the amygdala and the nervous system that movement is possible and safe, which directly counters that freeze or high-alert sympathetic response. The goal isn't exercise, it's nervous system regulation through gentle motion.
Got it. Okay, finally, step 4, integration and intention. Just a minute or two to wrap up and kind of cement the benefits.
Exactly. To consciously integrate the regulated state you've just cultivated before you jump back into the day. So take 1 to 2 minutes. Come back to stillness, either seated or standing. Place both hands gently over your heart, or maybe back on your belly, whichever feels more grounding or comforting to you. It's a gesture of self-compassion, of connection to yourself. Take several deep, natural breaths here. Just feel the effects of the practice. Notice the state of your body and mind now compared to when you started. Then, set a very simple, non-demanding intention for the hours ahead.
Not like a big goal.
No, not a goal to achieve, more like a state of being you want to embody or return to. Something simple like, I intend to meet challenges with presence today, or simply, I am calm, or I am grounded.
Anchoring that feeling.
Exactly. You're anchoring that newly regulated state into your conscious awareness before you open your email, before you talk to anyone, before you engage with the demands of the external world. You start from a place of internal regulation.
That blueprint is really powerful because it's so concise, so targeted. Okay, so someone commits. They do this 10, 15 minutes consistently day after day. What kind of results can they realistically expect? The sources really emphasize that the magic, the neurological rewiring, it's cumulative. It builds over time. It's not an instant fix.
That's crucial to understand. It's about consistent practice building momentum. But we can map out a likely timeline for the benefits, showing how things progress from just feeling a bit better to experiencing really deep foundational change. Hashtag 4.1, the cumulative timeline.
Okay, let's start short term. What happens typically after 1 week of doing this daily practice?
Okay, within just 7 consistent days, most people report a noticeable reduction in that kind of background hum of anxiety. That generalized anxiety level starts to decrease.
Okay.
Mornings in particular will likely feel significantly calmer simply because you've started the day by intentionally regulating your system instead of, say, grabbing your phone and getting that immediate cortisol spike.
Right, setting a different tone.
Exactly. Physiologically, you might notice a bit more ease in managing minor daily stressors. Things that might have frazzled you before feel a little less intense. And a really common early benefit is improved sleep latency, meaning you fall asleep faster.
Interesting.
Or if you wake up during the night, you find it easier to drift back off because your system isn't quite so jacked up. And maybe most importantly, there's often this subtle but profound shift where your body starts to feel less like a source of tension or pain and more like a safe, reliable home.
That idea of the body feeling like a safe home, that's huge. Okay, moving out a bit. What about after 1 month of consistent practice?
Okay, after about a month, this is where the strengthening of the prefrontal cortex, that CEO function, really starts to become noticeable in daily life. Your emotional resilience feels tangibly stronger.
How so?
When that inevitable stressful challenge hits, a difficult conversation, a work deadline blowing up, you're less likely to get instantly hijacked by the emotion. There's a little more space. A physiological micropause, exactly. It allows you to choose your response rather than just reacting automatically. We also see real improvements here in cognitive function, better concentration, stronger focus, and for many people, this is where they start to see a reduction in chronic physical symptoms of stress.
Like tension headache.
Persistent tension headaches, yeah. Neck and shoulder pain might ease up. Stress-related digestive issues might start to calm down because those new neural pathways for regulation are starting to solidify. They're becoming more established.
Okay, and then the long game, the real goal, that fundamental rewiring. What happens after 3+ months of daily somatic practice?
This is really the transformative stage. After 3 months or more of consistent practice, you haven't just learned to manage stress better. You've likely started to fundamentally rewire your entire relationship with stress.
How does that feel?
Your nervous system establishes a new baseline, a new normal set point that is significantly calmer, lower, more regulated. That constant hypervigilance that might have defined your default state for years, it starts to diminish significantly. Because on a deep physiological level, your body actually starts to trust its environment more than it fears it. It's learned through repetition that safety is the more common reality.
Wow.
And this consistent regulation leads to downstream effects, like a deeper sense of self-trust, trusting your ability to handle things, more confidence, a greater overall sense of well-being, vitality, maybe even joy. This isn't just changing your behavior, it's achieving a kind of physiological freedom from old patterns. You just start showing up in the world as a more resilient, more grounded version of yourself. Hashtag 4.2, the bigger picture and future value.
It feels really important to underline that this isn't just some, niche self-care trend for people with lots of time. The economic data actually confirms that the wider market institutions, they're recognizing the profound measurable value of practices that regulate the nervous system.
That's a critical point, yeah. And the numbers really back it up. When you look at the economic forecast for the wellness industry, it confirms that this isn't a fleeting trend. Society is recognizing body-based healing as a necessity, not just a nice-to-have luxury.
What kind of numbers are we talking about?
Well, one significant data point we saw was that the global somatic therapy market is projected to reach, get this, $24.85 billion by 2035.
Wow. $24.85 billion. That's huge. What does that massive number, that level of expected investment, tell us about where mental health and wellness might be heading?
I think it confirms a major shift in focus. We're moving away from a purely crisis management model, treating symptoms like depression, anxiety, burnout after they become debilitating.
Reactive.
Totally reactive. And moving towards a more proactive root cause approach focused on regulation. Businesses, insurance companies, individuals, they're starting to recognize that the return on investment for having employees, citizens, family members who are fundamentally regulated, focused, emotionally resilient. It's enormous.
Better productivity, less healthcare spending, better relationships.
All of it. We seem to be moving toward a wellness model that genuinely values internal physiological stability, perhaps even above some external metrics we used to prize. Investing in nervous system regulation is starting to be seen as a core, long-term health strategy, right up there with things like diet and physical exercise.
It signals a belief in the possibility of real, lasting inner peace, maybe.
I think that's exactly what it signals, a growing belief that it's achievable and incredibly valuable.
Okay, so to try and synthesize everything we've covered today, it seems the core finding is this. By consistently tuning into your body, using these simple daily rituals, 10-15 minutes, you are directly achieving fundamental healing and regulation within your own neurological system. You're using that amazing vagus nerve to calm down the fear center, the amygdala.
Yeah.
You're strengthening the CEO of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, improving focus and regulation.
Giving it a workout.
And you're essentially teaching your entire autonomic nervous system how to shift gears, how to leave that chronic, exhausting survival lane and spend more time cruising in the thriving lane.
It really is a truly radical act, I think. An act of self-love, an act of presence in a world that is so expertly designed to constantly pull our attention outward.
To screens, to notifications.
Or demanding screens, yeah. To seeking external validation, to endless stimulation. This simple practice anchors you firmly, physically, physiologically back into your own body, into your own internal truth. It's maybe the ultimate form of self-possession, self-regulation.
And that idea of having an internal anchor, that feels like the core takeaway. It means that no matter how turbulent or chaotic things get outside your door, and they probably will, you possess within you a reliable physiological foundation of calm that you can return to.
And if we just connect that to the bigger picture for a final thought, this daily practice gives you an incredibly powerful internal tool. It's accessible anytime, anywhere, requires nothing but you and your attention, and it helps you regulate yourself. It's entirely yours. It can't be taken away.
Yeah.
So this raises, I think, a really important question for you to consider. In a world that was so heavily built on external validation, endless consumption, constant outside stimulation, how fundamentally would your entire experience of life change if you knew, deep down, if you felt, absolutely, that you always had access to that internal foundation of safety and calm, regardless of the external chaos?
That's a powerful question.
It really is. And maybe that's something worth truly mulling over tomorrow morning, before you even think about reaching for your phone.